Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex discussion. Today, I want to talk to you guys about the guy who has quietly been making a run for the title of #1 Sussy Baka in the Boruto story, a title that has been held by Amado Sanzu for the last 5 years and counting, but Kashin Koji's actions since being reintroduced into the story have been, to say the very least, extremely sus and extremely cold-blooded in how calculated they are. That brings me to the topic of today's video, which is whether or not Kashin Koji is having everything play out the way that he wanted when it comes to Konohamaru's current position with Matsuri, in particular, the possibility that he does indeed get eaten in a way that appears, based on the last manga chapter, to be something that is coming. So for the Konohamaru fans out there, I know this is something that probably isn't the most positive thing to discuss. We've basically been on pack watch for the character for the last couple of months, and with how this chapter, the last one, ended, it doesn't look too good for the guy. Either he's going to bust out some type of new power or a summoning jutsu, or he's going to reveal that he used a shadow clone before meeting with Matsuri, which I hate to crash any hopes of that, but that wouldn't make sense given that Ryu's Iron Sand would have sensed his location a long time ago and gave it away. Or the guy, he might be smart enough to lean in when Matsuri is close enough and just slip some tongue into her mouth and hopes that the power of horny takes over enough for him to be able to survive this encounter. Similar to how Naruto busted out the jutsu Konohamaru used in Naruto's manga first, the reverse harem jutsu that Konohamaru used on Sakura that showed a naked Sasuke and Sai kissing each other, which Naruto used on Kaguya only on steroids, or like 20 men in that jutsu that he used. Unless he does something like that, our favorite remaining Sarutobi might be done, and Asuma's daughter might be the only one left behind to carry out the Sarutobi name legacy, which means that the Sarutobi clan is basically extinct. So jokes aside though, Kashin Koji's philosophy in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, it is hardened into a utilitarian perspective where sacrifices must be made to ensure the timeline where Jura is defeated does come to pass. His ability 10 directions allows him to perceive multiple possible futures, and rather than trying to save everyone, he prioritizes the best possible outcome where the planet isn't harvested. This mindset, which removes emotion from decision making, puts him in direct opposition to Boruto, who values bonds and wants to protect his loved ones. So this brings us to why Kashin Koji would let Konohamaru die. From everything that we've seen, Kashin Koji believes that interference must be measured and precise when it comes to the timeline. Every action taken by him in Boruto must be meant to preserve the course of events leading to Jura's defeat. The fact that he refuses to give Boruto a percentage for Konohamaru and his friend's survival suggests he already sees high probabilities of at least one death. His response that their chances of survival, which I'm paraphrasing, are greater than 0. It is a calculated way of saying that while survival is possible, it isn't unlikely for some of these characters. And as we see, Konohamaru's in a nightmare situation, and the people who are fighting against Ryu, Sarada, Mitsuki, Araya, and Yodo, they don't have that magnet release sword anymore, so their chances are plummeting as well. When Ada is watching Konohamaru, she says that it is likely he's about to die. And as we see, Kashin Koji doesn't react with urgency. It's almost as if Kashin Koji had already foreseen this. He likely did. Instead, he just reminds Boruto if he acts recklessly, then Jura will come for him and he will kill him. This implies that Kashin Koji is already willing to let Konohamaru die if saving him risks altering the necessary path to Jura's downfall. If Boruto were to intervene, it might lead to unintended consequences, perhaps diverting Jura's attention or preventing a key future event from happening. Given Koji's past insistence on not revealing too much about the future, he likely sees Konohamaru's fate as a necessary fixed point in time. If Konohamaru were to be devoured by Matsuri, Kashin Koji may rationalize this is an acceptable loss. Perhaps Matsuri consuming Konohamaru strengthens his own singularity, unlocking something crucial for Jura's downfall. Or maybe trying to save Konohamaru results in Boruto's death or the disruption of key battles. If Koji determines that allowing Konohamaru to die maintains the best future scenario, then in his mind, It is the only logical choice. It is cold, calculated, but it is logical. How this would drive a wedge between Boruto and Kashin Koji is the next thing we have to look at. So Boruto has always resisted the idea of a predetermined fate, a theme that is deeply tied into his character ever since Boruto Naruto Next Generations. Even when Momoshiki told him that those blue eyes would take everything from you, Boruto still kept saying repeatedly and acting in a way that made it clear he was going to defy fate and destiny. Boruto refuses to accept that he can't fight against prophecies or unavoidable deaths. This directly clashes with Kashin Koji's cold, pragmatic view that the ends justifies the means. By stopping Boruto from saving Konohamaru, Koji further isolates himself from Boruto. Boruto is already wary of how much info Kashin Koji withholds. Koji's detachment is starting to wear on him. Unlike Naruto, who fought against fate but still found a way to save people, Koji represents the extreme opposite, which is fitting, accepting fate and sacrificing individuals to ensure the correct timeline. It is so fitting narratively that Kashin Koji is acting in a way that Naruto would not approve of, and even Jiraiya, who had a choice to make between which path he would take. Even Jiraiya would hesitate with what Koji's doing, and yet Koji, who has the same genetics as Jiraiya, is showing that this is a nature versus nurture situation. Due to how Kashin Koji was nurtured, albeit by Amado, Kashin Koji has no problem basically looking at the situation saying, hey, if he's gotta die, he's gotta die. If Konohamaru does die, and Koji does nothing to prevent it, which it looks like he won't, Boruto's resentment is only going to deepen. This could push Boruto to challenge Kashin Koji's entire worldview, forcing him to seek a way to defeat Jura without playing into Kashin Koji's vision for how things must happen. If you go back to when Boruto was first told what their role as a Singularity of Fate was, Boruto did not agree. He wanted to take the information they had to share it with the people he loves. Koji's evolution from humanity to cold calculation is the other thing we have to look at. Because of the way that he survived his battle with Isshiki, it was already a miracle, and awakening this 10-direction Shinjutsu, it gave Kashin Koji access to a higher understanding of fate, just as he was staring fate as in death in the face when he was fighting Isshiki. However, this newfound power, it also hardened him. Witnessing multiple possible futures has forced him into a position where he sees morality as a hindrance itself. He suppresses his humanity because to him, emotions lead to irrational choices, choices that could doom the planet. In a way, this makes Kashin Koji, ironically, an even colder version of Isshiki. And that's something I love about what you see with Kashin Koji and Kawaki's characters. They are slowly becoming the very thing that they hated, Isshiki. While Isshiki sought to impose his own order through force, Kashin Koji has submitted himself to fate, acting as a servant of necessity rather than personal desire. That's where he differs from Isshiki, and yet at the same time, that's where he is similar. He's no longer just a remnant of Jiraiya or a creation of Amado. He's become a tool, ensuring that the worst possible future never happens. And it's so ironic. Kashin Koji was used as a tool by Amado. Kashin Koji was cloned from Jiraiya. Jiraiya was a shinobi. Naruto's manga, one of the underlying themes was the question of, are shinobi merely tools? That was set up in the Land of Waves arc as a way to start planting seeds for Zetsu, who viewed the shinobi existence as tools that he could use to revive Kaguya. And I like how as Boruto has continued to go even further into the Otsutsuki lore and the Ten Tails lore, we still see the tool aspect being used just in different ways. The irony in all of this is that Kashin Koji's actions, they again mirror the shinobi as tools philosophy that Naruto himself rejected in the first arc of the story. He's using himself and possibly Boruto as pawns, even if it means betraying personal bonds of Boruto. And that brings us to the next part, the thematic connection of Boruto's struggle against fate itself. This is a great example of what you've heard me say numerous times before on the channel. A good writer knows how to use good internal conflict and basically make the external conflict of the story itself play off of the internal. That way you have basically two sides rubbing against each other for extreme friction. That friction is going to be the conflict. Boruto's journey is about fighting against predetermined destiny, much like how Naruto had a battle as a child of prophecy, but also had a battle against his fate as being a reincarnated Ashura and Indra. He and Sasuke were supposed to fight each other to the death, and yet that's not what happened. Naruto broke that cycle. Boruto's struggle is arguably even more complex. He's not just trying to break a cycle, he's trying to break destiny itself, and break destiny in basically what is basically a multiverse. He isn't just trying to change his own fate, he's fighting against a future that people like Koji, Ada, and Jura all seem to be steering towards without even realizing that they're doing. Except for Kashin Koji, who is manipulating everything to get to what should be the ideal situation. Koji, he embodies this idea that fate itself can't be resisted, that sacrifices must be made to achieve total victory. Boruto, however, refuses to accept this as an absolute. Boruto as a character is transitioning over towards being someone who basically looks at absolutes in the same way that Star Wars says that absolutes lead to people becoming Siths, that Siths only deal in absolutes. If you get the reference, you get the reference. So if Kashin Koji lets Konohamaru die for the sake of the future, it may become Boruto's breaking point. He may seek a way to destroy the concept of fixed fates altogether, proving that people, they aren't bound by a single path, proving that fate itself isn't something set in stone, but instead fate is something that is always ever changing, something that ironically Kashin Koji does know, and yet at the same time he is so dead set on getting to this one outcome that he doesn't realize that there may be more than one way to get to that outcome, because there are things about Boruto that could lead to unexpected turns in the timeline that ends up being something for the better. Even though 10 Directions lets him see almost every possible outcome, Boruto himself is being positioned as a breaker of singularities. In conclusion, I'll say this: Kashin Koji's decision to allow Konohamaru to die, it'll be the ultimate proof of how far he has fallen into his role as an enforcer of fate. While he once had traces of Jiraiya's will, they now have been completely eroded by his experiences. He may be someone who has become a cold strategist, prioritizing the survival of the world over the survival of individuals. They will inevitably be put in odds with Boruto. They, in this case, being Kashin Koji's views on fate itself. Boruto's heart won't allow him to accept this fate so easily. This growing conflict is shaping up to be one of the most interesting and profound dynamics in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. The true question is, can Boruto prove that fate can't be defied, that a proper timeline can be reached, a proper conclusion to the timeline can be reached without people being sacrificed and Boruto having to give up the person that he is at his heart? Or will he eventually be forced to make the very sacrifices that Kashin Koji appears to be willing to make, if it means getting to the end that they all are working towards? Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and clicking over here on the left to check out more videos from Naruto Explained, or click here on the right to check out this blind review from my One Piece channel, Everything One Piece Explained. We're almost caught up, and what you're seeing on the screen are some of the chapters. It should be chapter 1103. One Piece, once we're caught up on that channel, you'll be seeing a lot of explained videos the same way that you see on my Anime Explained channel. So subscribe to that one and check out the blind review if you want to see somebody go through One Piece for the first time without any spoilers and react to it.